What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Floowandereeze deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is one of the best decks to play this format, especially with our crazy powerful boss monster, Impin. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Impin. This card is a crazy powerful boss monster in this deck, because if this card is tribute summoned, you get to add a Floowandereeze spell or trap from your deck to your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, you get to normal summon a monster, which is an amazing ability to grab something like a copy of Dreaming Town so you can play during your opponent's turn. And then while this tribute summon card is in the monster zone, your opponent cannot activate the effects of special summon monsters that they control in attack position, which is an amazing ability to be able to just lock down your opponent. This card is a definite 2-of in the build, and I absolutely love that effect. And it also has the ability once per battle, during damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can banish 1 card from your hand, and then opponent's monster's current attack and defense become half until the end of the turn, which is an amazing effect that it's a once per battle effect. So basically, it's going to be really hard to get over this card. We then play a single copy of Floowandereeze Snowell. Snowell is a great 1-of in the deck. You can play a 3rd copy of Impin over this card if you want to, but I really like Snowell because it helps you close out games, because it gives you 3 additional normal summons during your turn, which is just such a great effect that you can normal summon 3 times. That's so cool about this card. It also helps you do piercing damage to close out games, and it's a walking Book of Eclipse, because quick effect during your opponent's turn, you can banish a card from your hand and change all special summon monsters that your opponent controls to face down defense position, which is insane. This card is such a good 1-of in the deck, and I absolutely love this card. We then play a single copy of Ryza. Ryza is great at bouncing cards off the field, which is why I play this card as a 1-of in the deck. We then play a single copy of Mist Valley Apex Avian. Apex Avian is a walking negate and super easy to put on your side of the field, which is why we play this card in the build. We then play 3 copies of Rabina. Rabina is insane. This card is your starter for the deck, and you always want to see this card in your opening hand because it's absolutely crazy. It has a really amazing effect that all of your level 1 birds actually share, that if this card on the field leaves the field, you banish it face up instead, which is a great ability. And also, after you resolve their effects, you get to normal summon a monster, which is such a cool ability. And if you do normal summon a wing beast type monster, you get to add them from banished back to hand once per turn. But your copy of Rabina is basically the Stratos of the deck. If this card is normal summoned, you get to add a level 4 lower wing beast monster from your deck to your hand, which is a great ability to be able to use with this card. We then play 3 copies of Eaglin. Eaglin is usually what you're searching off your copy of Rabina, and this card is amazing because if this card is normal summon, you can add a level 7 or higher wing beast type monster from your deck to your hand, which is basically going to be any of these cards, any of your 5 tribute summons that you're going to be adding from your deck to your hand, which is just such a cool ability about this card. We then play a single copy of Stria. I feel like 1 copy of Stria is all you need in this build. This card is really good because if it's normal summon, you can target a card in either player's graveyard and banish it, and then you get to normal summon, which is such a cool effect. We then play a single copy of Toucan. Again, I feel like only 1 copy of Toucan is really needed, because it has the ability, if it's normal summon, you can target one of your banished Floowandereeze cards and add it to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to recover some of your cards. Then we play one of the most powerful cards ever created, and that's going to be 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. Shifter is so good in this deck because we want our cards banished, and this card just basically wins games on its own, and it's such an awesome card in this deck. This card helps out so much in this build, and it's crazy that this card is still at 3, but it's such an awesome card in this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, guys, we're going to start off with a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Harpy's Feather Duster is really good in this deck just to deal with back row, because your copy of Impin is going to deal with the monsters, so this card is great just to deal with back row that your opponent might have. We then play a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is so we can get to our copy of Map, so we play this card as a 1-of in the deck. We then play a single copy of Triple Tactics Talents. One copy is really all you need for this build because we're also playing Thrust, but this card is great because it lets you draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and choose a card from it and shuffle it back in the deck, which is such a crazy powerful effect if our opponent does activate a monster effect, which is just such a cool effect about this card to be able to just deal with your opponent. We then play 2 copies of Thrust. Thrust is insane in this deck. You can get to cards like Terraforming, Feather Duster, Feather Storm, Triple Tactical Talents. There's just so many options that you can use this card to be able to get to, which is just amazing. It's good going first, it's good going second, because it can help you get to your copy of Harpy's Feather Storm going first, so you can set it to your side of the field. Or if you're going second and you're trying to deal with back row, you can get a copy of Harpy's Feather Duster to deal with your opponent's back row, or even something like a copy of Talents, because you probably already met the requirements for Talents when you use Thrust, so you can look at your opponent's hand and deal with something in their hand, which is just really, really good. We then play a single copy of Floowandereeze and the Unexplored Winds. This card is amazing because it lets you tribute your opponent's cards to summon out your birds, which is just really insane. I love that about this card, and it's just an amazing one-of in the deck. It also helps you fix your hands if you draw too many tribute summons, because it has the ability during your main phase, you can reveal up to 2 Wing Beast monsters in your hand, place them on the bottom of your deck in any order, and then draw cards equal to the number of cards placed, which is great to help you just fix your hand. We then play 3 copies of Advent for Adventure. Advent for Adventure is basically the Rhoda for the deck, which is why we play this card as a 3-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of Magnificent Map. Map is insane. Map is one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck because this card has the ability during your main phase, you can reveal a level 1 Floowandereeze monster in your hand and banish a Floowandereeze card with a different name from your deck, and then immediately its effect resolves, you get to normal summon a monster, which is just absolutely insane that you just immediately normal summon the revealed monster off this ability, because it helps you chain block your cards because you'll normal summon like a Rabina by banishing like an Eaglin. Rabina will search another one of your birds, and then your effect of Eaglin will go off to be able to chain block a copy of Rabina to be able to add your copy of Eaglin to hand. Basically, Rabina 1, Eaglin 2, which is what you always say as you play this deck, and this card just helps you make sure that your plays are going to go through. Also, if your opponent normal summons a monster, you get to normal summon a monster, which is just such a cool effect about this card that it basically lets us play on both players' turns, which is just absolutely broken. This card is a definite 3-of in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. We really don't need the extra deck, so we play this card as a 3-of just to help us dig into our deck to get the exact cards that we need, because you really do need to get to a copy of Rabina as quickly as possible, because that turns on the entire play of the deck, which is what's so important to be able to get to. So this card helps us dig into the deck to either get a copy of Advent for Adventure, a copy of Map, or a copy of Rabina, so we can start playing. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Duality. We never really special summon in this deck, so this card is great just to, again, like our copies of Prosperity, just to help us dig into the deck so we can get more cards. If you want a more budget option over the copy of Prosperity, though, you can play Extravagance if you want to. I just like Prosperity because it lets me go 6 into the deck instead of just going 2, when I really feel like it's a better option in this build. We then play 3 copies of Book of Moon. Book of Moon is insane as a 3-of in the build because this card helps you dodge cards like Effect Veiler, Infinite Impermanence by flipping the bird that they're targeting face down. Then they'll resolve, which is just super cool about this card, but it also helps you deal with your opponent's cards, which is just absolutely crazy by flipping your opponent's monsters face down that we don't want to deal with, which is just really, really good. This card is amazing as a 3-of in the build. So that's it for the spells, guys. Really quick for a budget option, if you don't want to play the copies of Thrust, you can play something like Ash, or you can play 2 more copies of Triple Tactical Talent. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Dreaming Town. Dreaming Town is what you search off your copy of Impen all the time, because during the main phase after this card resolves, you get to normal summon a level 4 or lower Wing Beast monster, essentially turning your play all the way back on so you can basically play during the opponent's turn, which is just absolutely amazing. And if you tribute summon a level 7 or higher monster while this card is in your grave, you can banish this card and change all monsters that your opponent controls to face down defense position, which is going to happen with this card when you resolve it, which is just so easy to do to be able to tribute summon during your opponent's turn, because you go Ravina 1, Eaglin 2, and then you get the card that you want, go summon an Eaglin, then you go off with the Eaglin to search the exact one you want to tribute summon out, which can be a copy of your negate, which is Mist Valley Apex Avian, or anything like that. Tribute summon it out to your side of the field, banish this from the grave, and just Book of Eclipse your opponent. This card is insane in the deck. We then play 2 copies of Harpy's Feather Storm. Harpy's Feather Storm is insane in the deck. I do just play 2 copies because we play Thrust in this build, which I don't feel like you need the 3rd copy in the deck. I feel like you can side the 3rd copy if you want to, but it's really good in this deck as a 2-of because you can get to it with Thrust, so it's kind of like playing 4 copies of it. And it has the ability, if you control a Wing Beast type monster until the end phase of this turn, negate any monster effects activated by your opponent, which is insane to be able to just basically turn off your opponent's entire turn with this card. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with Fucho. Fucho is how we make our copy of Zeus extremely easy in the deck. You don't have to play everything in the extra deck because you don't go into it all that often, but this card is a really good option to be able to make because you can make go 2 of your small birds to make this card so you can go in for Zeus because it's unaffected by other card effects, and once per turn, quick effect, you detach 2 materials from this card, and for the rest of the turn, this card cannot be destroyed by battle, and also you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card, basically making it invincible. So you can make a copy of Downard and then Zeus on top of this, making it a 2 material Zeus, so you can basically just board wipe the field. We then play 2 copies of Assembled Nightingale. This card also just basically makes Zeus. You can swing directly to be able to make a copy of Downard during main 2 and then make a copy of Zeus, which is really good. Plus this card is great in time because you can make this card and then swing directly and poke for damage, so you can just basically have more life points. We then play a single copy of Slacker Magician. This card is a good option in the deck as a 1-of, because once per turn, this card cannot be destroyed by battle, making it great to help you again step in for Zeus, because the extra deck is very focused on making Zeus, because that's all you really need. We then play 2 copies of Downer Magician. Downer Magician is great in this deck to be able to put on top of any of these cards to basically, again, make Zeus, because being able to make Zeus is really good in this deck, and it's very important to be able to have access to it, so just in case you need to board wipe the field. We then play 2 copies of Zeus. Zeus is really good to be able to board wipe the field because it's just an amazing card, because you can make it on top of any of these cards to just go in for game. Being able to board wipe the field and then swing in with your copy of Zeus is amazing. Plus, it's such a powerful card that you can make for multiple materials in this deck. We can play a single copy of Gustav Max because, you know, the penguin likes to ride the train sometimes, but this card is great because you just detach a material from this card and then do 2,000 burn damage to your opponent, so you can Gustav Max for game. Plus, I think it's really funny to think about the penguin driving this because it does take both the penguins to make this. It does take both your impins to make this card, which is easy to do, but I think that's really hilarious. We then play a single copy of Juggernaut Lieb. Juggernaut Lieb is the upgraded version, you know, after the penguins have worked on it a little bit. But this card is great to be able to just go in for game. It's an option that you can make. It gets really big, and it's a great option if you have 2 impins on the field. Plus, you know, it's Juggernaut Lieb, but this card just OTKs like crazy. We then play a single copy of Underworld Goddess. It doesn't come up all that often, but it's an option that you can make. Again, you don't need all those cards in the extra deck because you're just focusing on the main deck. They're just pretty much options. If you have multiple birds on your side of the field, your opponent has something really big that you can't deal with on the field, you can make this and get rid of your birds and then make this card, which is an option. We then play a single copy of Azalea. Azalea is, again, an option that you can make, but you do have to summon out basically a Link Rebo and a copy of Relinquished Anima to make this card, which is not that hard, but it pops something on the field. Plus, we play a bunch of spell cards in the deck, but usually I end up just getting rid of it with Prosperity. It really doesn't come up that often. We then play a single copy of Link Rebo. Again, just another option that you can make in the deck because we do play a lot of level 1s. And then finally, Relinquished Anima. These are 2 that I feel like you do really need to play in the deck to be able to basically just make them if you want to protect you from battle or be able to gobble up a monster if your opponent plays it in the wrong zone. Usually for Prosperity, though, I will tell you guys, it's usually a Fucho, Assembled Nightingale, a Downer Magician, and then Underworld Goddess, maybe Juggernaut Lieb, and Azala. That's usually what I banish off of this. So basically these three and then one each of these is what I usually banish to be able to get rid of, to go in for game. And it's what I usually go for with the Prosperity, just to deal with that, because that's probably the best options. So, but you can basically use any of them that you want to. If you see that you can make your copy of Juggernaut leave, don't get rid of Juggernaut leave. Get rid of something like maybe a second Zeus if you want to, or Slacker Magician you can, because the extra deck isn't super necessary. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. I absolutely love Floowandereeze. It's a great deck to play this format. It's really easy to be able to learn, and it's insane how many powerhouse cards you can actually put into this deck, and it's just a really good deck. This deck is very solid, and I'm really excited to play this format. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.